Welcome back. Today I was going to practice doing some checkmates in 1, maybe checkmates in 2, if I get so many of those right. And I'm going to do that on the puzzles by theme on Lichess, which you see here. There is the mate in 1. And like I said, I'm just going to do mates in 1 until I feel like I've gotten a bunch in a row, and then I'm going to go to mates in 2. So if you want to follow along and see if you can find them before I do, feel free. All right, let's just click on mate in 1, and it should be easier, shouldn't it? That's a check, but it's not mate because the king escapes here. It's going to be the bishop, isn't it? It's going to be bishop to b7 because then the king will not have any squares to go. Okay, well, that's my first one. If you've noticed that the colors are different on my screen than in previous videos or than what you see on Lichess, I found I guess a plugin or something called Prettier Lichess. It's available for both Chrome and Firefox, at least on Windows. I don't know about OS, but on Windows you can install this browser extension called Prettier Lichess, and then you can adjust the colors. So feel free to experiment with that if you would like. I'm going to click to the next puzzle. Mate in 1. I'm pretty sure here it's just pulling my rook back out of the way. No, it's not that. That would just be a check with the discovered check with this bishop. But then the king would just move back to where it was. So mate in 1. Is it just pulling the rook back someplace else? Any place else? Not any place else. If I pull it back too far, well, if I pull it back here, that might be mate. But I was thinking if I went further, like to here, the bishop. Now that would still be mate, wouldn't it? Because the thing is, when I move the rook, that's going to be a check with this bishop. And wherever the rook is, it's not going to be able, the king won't be able to move over because the rook is also pointing at that square. And I don't think, does it matter how far back I pull it? I don't think it does, because the check's going to be coming from the bishop, and none of the enemy pieces are positioned to capture the bishop. But yeah, at first I was thinking if I pulled the rook back too far, one of these pieces could block the rook, but that doesn't matter because the check is coming from my bishop. So is it going to matter? What if I just put the rook right here? Nothing can block the check of the bishop or capture the bishop. And the rook will be back here, so the king won't be able to move. I'm just going to try that. Okay, that was it. I don't know if other answers would have been accepted. Sometimes on a puzzle, even though that looks like there's 2 moves that work, sometimes it'll only accept one of them. And here I think it should have accepted all the positions of the rook all the way back. But I don't know. Okay. Oh, wait. Did we lose count? How many was that? Was that 2? I think that was 2. I should probably start keeping track. Okay, next puzzle. This should be a mate in 1. Okay. Right now, the queen cuts off all these squares and protects the rook, which cuts off this square and this one and this one. So is there a way to check without ruining any of that? Would it be right just to, no, because then the queen captures. Because right now the king can't move, and if there were a way to check the king, oh, there is a way to check the king. That can't be stopped. Okay, my other rook, which looks like it hasn't moved yet. Okay, that was it. Oh, and I see now on the bottom underneath my board there is a counter of how many I've gotten right. It says the first one was right, second one, but the first one just had a check mark, second one was +1, and this one was +2. So I think I'll just depend on that to keep track. I don't know how far I want to go before I switch to mates in 2. But I do know I should probably need some practice on this. I should be able to just see these, right? Okay, well, this is not mate because their knight guards that square. I bet that's checkmate because the pawn can't take because the pawn is pinned from the rook down here. The opponent has no pieces that can capture right there, and that protects the pawn, and there's no escape. So that has to be it. Okay, that was it. Next. Okay, they have just moved out of check. There should be a mate in 1. Is it that? I think it's going to be that bishop move, because if I try to move the queen here, then the king can go back to where it was. So I think... yeah, I think the bishop has to go here protected by the queen, while the queen continues to cut off this square. No. No, because in that case, the king would just capture my bishop. Okay. Then is it a knight move? A discovered check from my queen, moving the knight out of the way, and then the queen would be guarding the bishop. Okay, so the queen would, in that case, that would be a discovered check. The bishop guards this pawn. The queen would be guarding the bishop. My pawn down here, my b pawn, guards c3. My knight and bishop would be cutting this off. My queen would be cutting off these squares. So I think it's the knight move discovered check. Okay, I should be doing these faster, I know. And I'm only getting a point or 2 for each of these because they're probably really low rated. Okay, my knight is guarded, and my knight guards these 2 squares. And currently my rook is cutting off all of these squares. My pawn is guarding that square. But right now the king has this escape route. So how do I keep the king from going there? I mean, obviously if I check with the rook, then the king wouldn't be able to go there, but it would be able to capture my rook. That's an attractive check, but again, oh, I didn't see my rook down here. That rook is cutting off these squares. So I think the bishop might be it. Yeah, because the knight guards these 2 squares. My h rook guards all of this, and my f rook that I didn't see at first guards of this, and my h pawn guards the knight. So, all right, that was mate. Wow. Okay. Oh, and I forgot to look at the rating when I passed it. Okay, but I only got a check mark for it instead of points, so it must have been a low-rated puzzle. Okay. Oh, those are links to the puzzle. It popped up down at the bottom of my screen, so if I click on one of those counters down there, it would take me back to that puzzle, I guess. Okay. These 2 protect each other, and therefore guard that square. My pawn is guarding this one, and if I put my bishop there, I think that would cut off the rest of the... I think that's checkmate. Okay. Okay, that one was rated 1650 up on the left, upper left, and my puzzle rating on Lichess is 2117. So that's why I'm only getting 1 point, or in some cases none, for these puzzles. All right, next. Okay. My queen guards my rook, and my rook cuts off all of this, and my queen is cutting off this and guarding this. But how to check the king in this position? That's a check, but the rook captures. And even though I might come out ahead in that situation, it's definitely not a mate. This is a check. I think it might be knight to e4. Okay, just to make sure, the queen and the rook cut off all the other escape squares except for that one, which their own pawn cuts off, and then nothing can block or capture that. All right, that was it. Oh, and I got 2 points for that because it was rated 1893. All right. Okay, this is is it called the dovetail mate? Because the square here is guarded by my rook down here, and then the queen points through and cuts off all of that. It's like the swallow's tail or the dovetail. I can't remember. It's one of those, I think. Yeah, that one I have had a couple of times in games, and they're pretty cool when you spot those. That one I saw pretty quick. Okay. Oh, that one was only rated 1511, so yeah, I should have seen that pretty quick. How many do I have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Well, if I get 10 more without missing one, then I'll switch to mates to in twos. But I definitely need practice on this, as you can see. Okay. That knight just captured something here, but the downside for the opponent is that it cut off a possible escape square for their king. I think that's going to have something to do with the puzzle, and I think it's going to be... Well, for a second I thought it was going to be moving this knight, because that would allow this bishop to cut off all of that. But there's not a good way to move the knight with check, because here the pawn would capture it, and same thing with there. This pawn would capture it. So neither of those are a checkmate. Oh, is it that? Yes. Okay. Because the knight, my e-knight, currently cuts off that square while my rook knocks off those, and their own pieces block these squares. So yeah, it's going to be knight to d4, which will not only be check, but cut off the final escape square. Okay, so almost like a smothered mate, except instead of on the back rank, my rook is making sure it can't go back there. Okay. All right. I almost said here, but the opponent has a bishop guarding that square. So it might be this knight move back to the corner. Because right now this knight's not protected. So, you know, if I were to check here or something like that, the king could just come. But my queen cuts off all those squares behind the king. The bishop is cutting off these. Their own pieces are here. And if I move that knight back to the corner, not only will it be check, but it will block this square. And I think that's going to be mate. Okay. That was rated 1847. Next. This is a maiden one, and it's one of those that I would probably never see in a game. Probably. Okay, again, we have the rook completely cutting this off and a bishop cutting these off. If I moved my knight there, it would be check, and that would be cutting off this square as well, but that leaves two escape squares for the king. So it's not that. And the knight's currently protected by this pawn. Wait, is it the rook? Because my knight guards that square. And then my rook would still be cutting off those. The bishop is still cutting off these. The knight's cutting off those. And the pawn is cutting off those. Okay, wow, I should have seen that more quickly. Okay. And also, that was very similar to the checkmate that Jan-Christoph Duda got in that FTX tournament a couple of days ago against, was it Prague? That was really surprising. I think it was Prague. Grandmaster just hung a mate in one. It was very similar to this. Okay. That one... Oh... That would be mate if this queen wasn't down here, but this queen is down here. Well... Oh, it's here, isn't it? Okay. Wow. Because the queen cuts off these and protected by the king. Okay. Yeah, I should have seen that one sooner. Apparently it was so low rated I just got a check mark for it. All right. Horrible. The bishop guards that square. Okay, so it's not the queen to the corner, is the rook to the corner. Yes, this is the rook to the corner. Okay. Wow, I almost moved the queen down there. Okay. Well, it's a good thing this isn't blitz or bullet because I would be failing. But if it was rapid or if it was blitz or bullet and I realized I had 30 seconds left, maybe I would take my time and see. This one, it's not the rook. Moving down. Oh, also because that square's not protected. Wow, I think it's the bishop to a6 because my other bishop cuts off these squares. My rook cuts off these. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay. And that one was only rated 1600. Nothing on their side guards this square, does it? And my pawn is protecting b2, so that's checkmate. All right. Wait, that position was found, that was in a blitz game between a women's international master and a women's FIDE master. Wow, both rated 22 or 2300. Okay. I assume that was a rook I just lost, but I think that's checkmate. Yeah, it couldn't be that square because then the king could escape, and it couldn't be that square because then the rook would capture, so okay. That one was only rated 1600 as well, but it seemed a little trickier. Okay. But I think the ratings are come up with by people playing against these puzzles. And it's probably me taking so long to do the puzzles that's making those ratings... No, wait, that would make the rating go up. I don't know. Okay. This knight is guarded by my rook, and it is currently cutting off these squares. And the other knight and pawn both guard this square. So I think if I put my bishop on b3, it would cut off all the rest. And nothing can block that. Okay. Next. That's just a mate in one right there. Okay. I saw it immediately, but I paused just because sometimes I think, oh, I saw it, and then it's wrong. So that's why I always hesitate. Well, here I'm hesitating because I don't see it at all. Oh, it's just capturing the rook. Okay. Because my bishop cuts off that square. All right. Also, like, I have to look around the board. Sometimes it's a piece on the complete opposite side of the board that's making it checkmate. This is just taking the pawn. Yeah, because my knight guards that square. Okay. Almost didn't see it, but my rooks were cutting off all of these, and the knight was hitting those, so all I had to do was have a safe check. Nice. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. Well, I did 23 by accident. It was good practice. Thank you for watching. I'm going to put my mates into in a separate video. But anyway, I hope you like the color scheme, and if you don't, but you would prefer different colors than Lichess has, look for Prettier Lichess. It's a browser extension for Firefox or Chrome that I just found yesterday, and you can customize the colors. There's a drop-down box from the extension, and you can set what all these colors are. You can set the colors around the rest of the board. So anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.